it's honed in on providing a path to home ownership for those who otherwise couldn't qualify. So I'm looking to house at least 500 families in the next 5 years.
Job stands for just over broke.
Yes.
No matter how much you're making, it's still just over broke because you're comfortable with what you're doing and you start living to. I don't know why I'm laughing. Let's start that over. Hello and welcome to the Dream Start On podcast. I'm your host, Edgar the Connector, and today's guest is Josh Smith. He's a big timer in financing or helping out with financial loans, at least in my eyes is because he helped me out big time on a deal we recently closed a couple months ago. Josh, welcome.
Thanks, Edgar. No, I appreciate you. It's an honor being on your show. I know you've been like super consistent at it, and I've really been enjoying your show. You're doing a good job. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Ever since Owners Club in Boston, I've had a goal to try to put one out a podcast episode every week, and I've been successful so far. It was close. I've had try not to put too many at one time because I feel bad holding on to the episode for a month or 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. So I try to keep them kind of fresh, but sometimes that bites me in the butt if somebody has to reschedule and I have to try to move people over. So it's a little balancing act.
Yeah, it's a balance. There's a lot more that goes into podcasting than I think people realize. And yeah, staying consistent at it. I'm legitimately, I'm not just saying that just to say it. I'm super impressed because that's awesome. Good job, man. But yeah,
thank you.
Appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate you. So what is it that you're into besides financing? I know you do loans, transactional EMD. Talk a little bit more about that so whoever's watching this and doesn't know can get an idea.
Yeah, for sure. So my primary, so I don't have a W-2 currently. I consider my W-2 actually, I own a property management business just south of Nashville. So it's the southern bordering cities of Nashville. So you're like Murfreesboro, Franklin area. Heavily focused on short-term rentals, monthly furnished rentals. We do some traditional leases, but it's not necessarily like our main bread and butter. I'd say like 70% of the portfolio is more on the short-term rental side and monthly furnished rentals. So I consider that as my W-2. And then the finance side, so I've got into to where I'm doing loans it's more of your escrow-backed type lending. So it's traditionally, if you're doing a private money loan, you're going to have some type of asset tied to it. So mine's all escrow back. So it's actually within the escrow process and then it gets refunded at the end of escrow. So that's kind of the main differentiator there. So it's going to be your EMD loans. We don't focus on those as heavily, although we can do them. But our main bread and butter and focus is really on your Morby Method or stack method type structure. So if you've got a seller carryback type structure, and we do the down payment funding for that, as well as like your closing costs. And then we also fund double closes. So.
Yeah, EMD, I guess the Gator method that Pace Morby has been teaching us, is that where you got it from or did you start before?
So that's first, it's kind of unconventional the way I started in it because I heard about it from Pace's community. So I'm in his Subto community as well as Owners Club. That's where I was fortunate enough to meet you, thankfully. We were actually connected through Mattea. It's always funny that you've in Owners Club being in there a year and you still don't know everyone. So I was glad he connected me with you. It's been awesome. But I never actually joined Gator at all. I had just heard of the concept, but I learned everything I know from lending from a guy. His name's Ryan Shrope, and he's also in Subto. And he's got a full-fledged business where like transactional lending is all he does. I mean, he has other things, but his primary focus is really transactional lending, and he's really made a really good what's the word? Good track record for himself, I guess. He's built a pretty substantial business with it, I guess I could say. So he's got a community as well, and that's where I've learned everything as far as like the appropriate contracts, how to actually handle these deals. So I'm super grateful for him for sure. But yeah, that's kind of where I got into it.
I haven't met Ryan, but shout out to Ryan. I've heard a lot about him. Brenda Builds Wealth is working with them as well. Mm-hmm. I think another Subto Drew's partner, Francesca. Mm-hmm. To you as well. That's I've heard Pace talk about him. So
yeah, he's just a really genuine guy, and down to earth. And he really operates with integrity, and that's how I like to operate my business. So I appreciate the way he operates, and he's sharp in the way, kind of like Pace is, as far as breaking things down. Just Ryan, he tries to get to the point as quickly as possible, and kind of he knows everybody's got their schedules pretty full, so he's really good at that and kind of condensing things in a real manageable way to where you can understand it. So yeah, he's been great, really good to work with for sure.
I need to look him up a little bit, and
Yeah.
then see you doing podcast, not podcast, but YouTube channel as well. Good job on
Mm-hmm.
that. What's the
Thanks.
channel that you have for your YouTube?
So it's Josh. It's at Josh Smith REI. So that's my handle for everything. So I try to stay in line with what Pace says. It's like you keep your channel or your handle to the best of your ability the same across all platforms. So I'm on YouTube as that, as well as LinkedIn, Facebook. I think Facebook might not be, but definitely Instagram. So Instagram and YouTube are the ones where I'm trying to hone in and focus on. But yeah, no, as far as the YouTube channel, it's really focused on kind of just taking ownership. So helping people take ownership, whether it be in business, real estate, or finance, or just life in general. So a lot of it is kind of educational topics and stuff that I've had experience in with when in regards to real estate. So some of the lending stuff, some of the like self-directed retirement account stuff, things like that. And I have started my own podcast, but you're definitely more consistent than I am, my friend. You're killing it. I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I've been working hard on it.
Yeah, no, I can see. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, so with your lending portion of it, you started with Ryan Shrope. How long have you been doing that now?
So with that, it's been since like last June timeframe. So it hasn't been a great deal of time. I mean, it's still under a
1 year?
year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just coming up on a year here pretty soon. But that's the thing. With the right people in place, you can definitely pick up on these things pretty quickly. And yeah, it's been a really fruitful business so far. I'm really liking that. That's the thing with the property management business. So I've got an operations manager in place now. That's kind of part of the reasons, my main key into joining Owners Club was it's like the business was very much running me. So it's really changed my mindset in a lot of ways. But my intent is by Q3, Q4 this year, I'm working maybe 10 hours in that business out of each week. So I've got my operations manager on staff, and then the intent is to bring on a marketing and sales manager by Q3, Q4, and then kind of back away and where I can work more on the business, not necessarily in it. But at this point in time, since he's now handling that, he's been on for about a month and a half now. So I guess you could say I'm the rainmaker of the business at this point. That's where my primary focus is. So
Hey, fantastic. Rainmaker
yeah.
from like the No One Left Behind challenges.
Yeah,
Getting into
exactly.
the
But the intent behind that is back away a little more of the property management business so I can really hone in on the lending, because the it's been a great business so far, and I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. So
I love it. Hey, y'all drop a comment, tell him that you believe in his goal, that he's going to do it by Q3.
yeah,
Okay. And I'm going to
exactly.
follow up on him, try to be a little bit of accountability
I
partner
like
here
that.
to let him say, hey, where you at? How close are you to it?
I love it. I love accountability. That's what's so nice about these groups is you meet people like you, and we've all got very similar mindsets, and we've all got really large goals that we're trying to achieve. So it's nice to be around these type of people for sure. It's huge.
Yeah, definitely. That's one reason I invest so much in Owners Club, even though I'm not getting the cash for it right now. I know that just investing in myself and learning and making the relationships and building what I'm doing now in the long term, it'll help build wealth and be able to help out many more people than I would be not being in the group.
Yeah, that's the important thing is you're looking at it from a long-term mindset, and that I mean I'm the same way, and it's really just talent stacking. I mean, you're learning more talents as you go, you're building up your connections, and that's going to bear a lot of fruit long term. Some people, I think they get maybe a little short-sighted, and when they see these types of groups are like, "Oh, I don't need that," or maybe I'm not right for that, or that doesn't make any sense. It's like, no, I think you realize it when you're in these groups, the type of people that are in there, they're constantly, I mean, it's just constant self-improvement. So, but it'll definitely pay dividends in the future for all of us, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely being in those rooms too. Like we got Monterey coming up. for the Owners Club retreat. I'm excited just being that energy and seeing these people that are telling you their ups and their downs and how consistency was a key for them to be where they're at now.
Yeah, no, we've got a lot of heavy hitters in that group. That's what I like most about it is I am like one of the smallest in that group by far. So it's nice to be around people. No, not a chance, dude. But
Oh yeah,
it's
I am. But some of it is show, I'm
yeah,
still
yeah.
still growing. I love that you said you've taken the steps of becoming an owner and not having the job run you. Right now, I have multiple businesses, but I'm an employee for each one. So technically, I just have a bunch of jobs. What pushed you to make that hire, and what made you feel comfortable making that hire?
So for me, I mean, what really pushed it, I mean, deep down, it's my family primarily. So I've got a wife and three kiddos, and I tend to put a lot of my time in my job. Like when I'm in something, I give it my all. And the job was, like I said, by the time they had announced Owners Club initially, I was full bore. It owned me 100%. And then you get into these groups, and you start to like your eyes start to open. For instance, when you had that own 2025 series that Pace was doing last year, you remember that? And then you had people like Dan Martell come on, and then you hear some of like I love Dan Martell. He's awesome. He's been huge impact on my business, and that's really where something's clicked. Where it really clicked for me is I read his book Buy Back Your Time. I'd say I'm probably on my fourth time reading it, and that's like just there's such simple yet effective strategies that he puts out there, and you just I don't know, it's like you almost read them and you're like, why did I not think about this? Like as far as the audit, transfer, fill, even the camcorder method, like that's part of my when I was hiring my operations manager. So I had gone through kind of that audit procedure, trying to see like where was all my time actually going, and I found out that really a lot of my time was going towards the operations of the business. So it's a really operationally heavy business on in short-term rentals, because I mean you have guest turnover. It's a hospitality. There's a lot of guest service. There's a lot of management of this, say like vendors, so your cleaners, your maintenance personnel, stuff like that. So I realized that's where I was spending a lot of my time, and I wasn't necessarily doing it the most efficiently. That was kind of the primary reason for that being my first hire, because it's really, I was doing well, but not as well as I could have been. And I think someone else in that role that had more of the operational integrator mindset definitely would have been better suited for it. So that's kind of where it came into play. And then to his camcorder method, I mean, that's when I onboarded him, like I was utilizing that in preparation because of hearing that, where it's like when I was going through activities, I was just recording what I was doing and then talking my way through it as I was doing it. And that made the onboarding experience so much better. Like it's so simple, but so effective. And yeah, no, I'm super grateful for his stuff. But like this stuff, before I was in this community, I had never even heard of Dan Martell. So
Same. Pace gave the community the first, so many people in the community of the book. I did have it right up here, but now it's sitting by my bedside because I read it every night. One thing I've recently learned is if you read before you go to sleep, you actually sleep better. And since a lot of entrepreneurs, we lack sleep because of all the things we're trying to do, I think just putting it near my bedside, that would help me sleep better and read the book at the same time. Knocking out multiple birds with one stone was really helpful. But yeah, I've started implementing the camcorder method, especially with the meta glasses that they've given us. Be able to record that. I try using Loom, but the free version, you only get 5 minutes, and sometimes it takes longer than that. So
yeah,
use the tools that you have, save some money there. But yeah, Dan's been great. Shout out Dan Martell.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I think
Um,
that's to that point. I mean, you definitely, I've heard, oh, I forget who told me this, but who knows if there's much truth to it. But it's like if you read and then you have it right next to your bedside, it's almost you retain it better to a certain extent. Like when you're studying for an exam, they say put the book under your pillow. I'm like, what are you talking
osmosis.
about?
Hey, there's things we can't prove, right? So
I
maybe,
think if it would help with my sleep cycle, I'd definitely be all about that, because going to sleep on time and actually falling asleep quickly, that'd be a huge help in my life, big time. So
yeah.
might have to look into doing that.
Yeah, do it. I mean, it doesn't hurt to try it for a little bit. I've done something to improve my sleep. It's an investment, and I do have an affiliate link. It's not sponsored, but I sleep hot. So we have memory foam, mattresses. And they're comfortable, but they're hot. So
Yes.
I get hot and then I moved and so I don't sleep that well. So we bought what's called a 8 Sleep. It's this thick cover that has little tubes that go through it. So we have a king size bed and it has one side, left side and right side. So I can put my bed to cool. So all night it'll stay cool where I'm sleeping on. So I'm not tossing and turning anymore. So it helps improve my sleep by a lot, even though it's like a $5,000 investment. But it's not just a cover. It includes a bed frame. So if you snore, I snore a lot, it'll actually raise my head as I'm snoring because it hears you. So it'll reduce your snoring.
I
So
bet your
it's
wife
pretty
loves
freaking
that.
cool. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. No, I grew up in a house where my parents, they wanted, it was out in Colorado, and they were real sticklers about letting the thermostat go above like 60 because it was too expensive to heat, and we were up in the high country in Colorado. And so I'm just used to sleeping cold. So my wife, she really likes it hot. So it's sometimes that I think that would be an awesome investment. Probably help me out for sure.
Yeah. I'll send you the link so you can try it out. It's been
Yeah.
game changing. We've had it since January. So about four months now. And it's been just so nice.
Yeah. It's awesome.
But yeah, so that's going to help out with sleep. What made you get into financing?
So finance, I think, I mean, really where that came from was, I mean, just getting into real estate and realizing all the possibilities. I had never thought that I could even be a lender at any point in time. I mean, this was kind of a new concept. I was in tuned with real estate, and that's like I had a lot of passion for getting into real estate. But as far as like just even realizing that it was a possibility, that didn't really come until got involved in Pace's community, because I had bought a lot of my rentals actually are I purchased them traditionally before I even heard about Pace. And looking back now, I'm like kicking myself. It's like, man, that could have I could have done those a little better. But yeah, hindsight's 2020. But yeah, just being in that community, and it opens your eyes to how many different facets there actually is in real estate. Like there's so many different avenues of making money. It's insane. Like it's ridiculous. So that just seeing the possibilities that were coming out there as far as private money lending, and then like having access to capital and looking to deploy it, really it is from my since I because was in my W-2 for about 13 years. My previous one right before I started the business, and with the retirement accounts, I had learned how to self-direct, but I didn't necessarily have any investments that I knew to do with it. And when I was learning about the private money lending and transactional lending stuff like that, I figured, hey, this would be a good testing grounds to test that out. So that's kind of what got me started into it, was out of trying to find what to do with that account, essentially.
Nice. So you converted your 401k to a self-directed IRA.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a particular company that you're using for self-directed that you are happy with? Have you tried multiple?
Yeah, so I haven't tried multiple, but it's mainly just because I've had such a good experience with mine. I've been with them for a little over 5 years. It's actually Matt Sorensen's company. So it's directed IRA based out of Arizona. So when I was initially getting started in my business, I used their sister company as KKOS Lawyers for all my entity structuring and stuff like that, and my estate plan, all that. And that's when I got kind of keyed into what they were doing in the self-directed IRA space. And I was still working at the W-2 at that point in time, kind of prepping everything up. So I went, like I said, when I go into things, I go all in. And I went on a deep dive in that rabbit hole and pretty much listened to anything I could get my hands on as far as what Matt Sorensen puts out there. Then picked up his book, the Self-Directed IRA Handbook, which is, if you're getting into the space, I highly recommend it. It's huge. Like it's super impactful, and it's got a lot of case law in there as far as like if you have a unique situation where you're just, hey, I'm curious if I can do this with my retirement account. I guarantee you he's probably has some type of similar scenario in there that you can reference. So that's been huge. But yeah, directed IRA based out of Arizona. They're awesome. Their customer service is phenomenal. I'm actually an affiliate for them as well, but I typically don't broadcast that as much. It's because I don't want people to think I'm saying their name just because I affiliate for them. I affiliate for them because I really believe in their product, and they've been phenomenal to work with on my end, for sure.
That's great to hear. I recently opened up an account with them, transferred over my 401k from a previous employer. But it's been sitting there. I need to learn more about it to see how I can use it properly. I did the LLC like checkbook route. Can you expand a little bit on that? Do you know about it?
Yeah, so the IRA LLC, that's one of my structures. So I self-direct, like I've got my HSA self-directed, my Roth IRA, and my traditional IRA. And really, I mean, it's any tax advantage account you can do this with. A lot of people like even Coverdell's, which is more of an education type account, you can self-direct that. But mine, the primary one that I've got set up as an IRA LLC was the larger account that I got transferred over I rolled it over from my 401k from the old employer. And the IRA LLC really, it is where your custodian, so directed IRA, they're a custodian, just like your Fidelity, Schwab, so on and so forth. They're just a custodian where they allow you to self-direct your retirement funds in what's applicable, what you can, which is a pretty broad list that people like you can even invest in cows if you wanted to. If you know how to make money on cows, you can invest in cows. There's just like rules and regulations around it to how you do that. But you can actually buy cows with your retirement account, it's funny. It's kind of mind boggling what you can actually invest in. But mine is set up to where, so your custodian actually has full 100% ownership of that LLC. It has to be at formation of it. And so it's not, if you're looking to get into it, you can't transfer over one of your existing LLCs. That's just something to be aware of. You're going to cause what's called a prohibited transaction. So that's one thing. If you're getting into the space, you want to make sure that you're very familiar with kind of what the rules are and like guardrails you need to stay within when you're self-directing the accounts. That way you don't like cause an issue where they dissolve your account and you have to get penalized and pay all the back taxes and it like loses its tax exempt status. But yeah, anyways, long story short, you just have that to where the custodian owns that IRA LLC. And then from there, all those funds that are at your custodian, they can be deposited directly into a business checking account of that entity. So you open up a business checking account and then you operate it like a normal business. Just make sure you're staying within those guidelines. So yeah, I've used that to purchase my last 3 deals. They were all creative finance, and then I've used it for quite a few lending deals already. So it's been super impactful.
Fantastic. And you do that with old 401ks. You can't do it with an existing 401k with your current employer. Is that right?
So with your current employer, I mean, they're typically going to be with one of the like key players, typically like a Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard, something along those lines. And the thing with those guys is they make all their money off of the commissions of buying stocks, bonds, mutual funds. So they've got their structure set up to where they're making really good money. They don't want to deviate from that. So they're not going to allow it. So what you can do, it depends on your employer plan that you have. But what I was doing at the time when I was working with, it was actually Toyota was the automotive manufacturer I was working for. When I was learning about this stuff, what I did is I was doing what's called a mega backdoor Roth. Are you familiar with that? So essentially what I was doing is I was contributing after tax money to my 401k. So instead of pre-tax, I was contributing like Roth dollars, and you can contribute up to, I mean, depending on what you're putting towards other retirement accounts. I mean, I could have gone up as high as 40,000 a year additional that I could pour into my Roth, like convert it over to my Roth. And really you're just paying taxes at that point on the earnings. So if it was in like a mutual fund or something during that term before you transferred it over, you would just pay taxes on that interest you earn there. So it's nothing too crazy. But what I was doing is I was contributing as much as I possibly could after tax and then rolling that over into my Roth, my personal Roth, and then self-directing with that. So in the matter of like one of the years, I never got up to the 40,000, but like one of the years I got up pretty close to 30,000 in one year, in addition to the normal, I think at the time it was 6,000 or 6,500 annual contributions. So
Right.
yeah. And I think that's another common misconception is a lot of people think that you have these limits to where you can't contribute to a Roth if you're above a certain income. And that's completely untrue. I mean, yes, there's those limits in place, but there's so many ways to get around it. Like you can backdoor Roth, just the initial contribution as well.
Very insightful, man. For your kids, are you able to do self-directed at all?
Yeah, you can. The main thing with the kids is, and obviously I'm not like a tax professional or a CPA or anything like that. This is just from my own experience. So definitely reference someone like a Matt Sorensen or someone in that realm where this is their specialty, their license, stuff like that. That's just a caveat there. I'm not a licensed professional. This is just from my experience. But from kids, it's really, they just have to have earned income. So if they have earned income, then you can contribute to a Roth. So in my opinion, the way I see it is like, you've got the 529 plans to where you can contribute to maybe like it's a tax advantage saving account to where you can save towards your children's like college at some point in line. The way I see it, in my opinion, it's much better to do it as a Roth. Like if you have the ability to contribute to a Roth for them, like to where you can show that they have earned income. So bring them into your family business, say maybe they help you with your paperwork. I think I'm trying to figure out what would be the most optimal age. It's when they can actually contribute. I would assume close to 10. My kids are still under 5, so it's not really an option at this point in time. But I mean, you can use them for photography if you're using them for your marketing in any way, shape, or form. If they're dealing with trash in the office, obviously you have to give them a realistic salary. But if they have that earned income showing, then you can contribute those dollars to a Roth IRA. And that's kind of what I intend to do with my kids, is because by the time they get to graduating high school, those contributions, they have a 5-year rule. So you can't take out any of the gains in those accounts until you're at the retirement age, which is like 59 and a half or later if you want it. But you can take out the contributions. So obviously it's an investment vehicle. You don't necessarily want to take them out, but if they needed to for college, this would be a way to get that college funded, to where so you take it out, your contributions have to be in there for at least 5 years, and then you can start taking them out. So that's kind of my intent, and kind of how I plan to do it with my kids is help them contribute to it, then teach them how to self-direct, because you can make far better returns. None of my investments in there, like all my investments are 20% plus cash on cash return within that account.
Wow.
Which your standard S&P, like if you're really trying to be passive with your retirement accounts, I mean, you can do like a broad-based mutual fund, like say VTSAX or VTI, where it tracks the S&P 500. Historically, you can maybe make 8 to 10% if you're lucky. But yeah, unless you're some like Warren Buffett and you really know stocks and that's your thing, it's not really the most advantageous to be investing in stocks unless you're really knowledgeable on it. So that's what I like about self-directing, is you're actually investing in stuff that you know what you're doing. So that's where you want to invest in products where you are already making money outside of your retirement accounts. And if you can make that money outside, then why not do that with your retirement accounts? Obviously there's rules. So if you're operating a business, you have to be aware of like 2 primary gotchas. There's the UBIT. So it's unrelated business income tax. So if you're earning any type of ordinary income, you do have to pay taxes on that. So they don't want you to it's unfair competition to anybody else that's in business where they have to pay their taxes, but you don't. So that's kind of the reason for that. And then if you're financing anything, so you can get a loan within these accounts, but it all has to be non-recourse. So it can't be tied to you, because that's considered like a self-dealing prohibited transaction. So they have this thing, if you take a loan out, it has to be non-recourse. And typically those non-recourse lenders, you have to pay at least 50% for a down payment, typically 40 to 50%. Now, another way, the way I get around it, is learning the stuff with Subto and seller finance, stuff like that. That's non-recourse because it's not tied to my name. So that's a way to where you can really leverage those creative strategies and leverage those to make some killer returns in your retirement account for sure. So it's awesome. But that thing that you have to be aware of if you do finance, it's called UDFI, so unrelated debt financed income. So you essentially have to pay tax on the portion that you're financing. So it's just, there's a few gotchas, but it really, like, directing your retirement accounts, it's like playing Monopoly is what I would equate it to. The first time you play it, you're like, man, I got to read these rules. This is super confusing. But once you get the rules down, like, it's like riding a bike. It's not that hard.
Oh man, such great information there. Again, this is for entertainment purposes. We're not CPAs. We're not tax professionals.
100%.
Consult with your professionals. This just gives you an idea of the way Josh is able to work his numbers and what he's been successful with. So take a look at it. I asked about the kids. My brothers, they have kids, and I know one of them is putting money into college savings. So I want to get him into investing some of that into deals where he's going to be able to make bigger returns than the S&P 500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if they're looking for a college savings account, I don't know a huge amount about this one because I really, in my opinion, the Roth IRA is the way to go for me. That's just my personal. But I know others where they're invested in it's a Coverdell, and I think it's got a lot more leeway than what, say, a 529 or five. I think I'm saying that right, 529B plan. But that's like a potential other one they could look at. But you can self-direct them, so that's a huge benefit there.
Appreciate all that information you're giving us there. Let's move to your W-2 that you had. What made you leave your W-2?
So I think with the W-2, it's so so I grew up in a large family. 6 sisters, 1 brother, and our 2 parents, so 10 of us total. And I grew up out in Colorado in this podunk town is Guffey, Colorado. I'm sure you probably haven't heard of that one, but literally had 2 stop signs, a super small town. But needless to say, I mean, we're out in the middle of nowhere and we weren't exactly the most wealthy. I mean, absolutely love my family. I'm super close with a lot of them. I'm really family oriented, and I think it's because of that. But they weren't exactly, definitely not financially wealthy there. So I was always looking at kind of what's that next level? Where can I like provide value or bring value in some way, shape, or form? So I was always looking at kind of what the next level was there. So that I actually started out as a car mechanic originally. And that was mainly because my family, their vehicles kept breaking down all the time. So it's like, this is a way I can actually help my family out because they can't really afford to repair their cars. So I was like, hey, this is a good route. But I'm always like, okay, what's next? What's next? So that eventually led to me getting into the corporate career. And that's where I was with Toyota primarily. The majority of my term was with Toyota in the corporate career. And I met my wife there, and we were both in pretty decent paying jobs. And I remember looking at each other one day and we're like, man, we've got pretty good paying jobs, but we feel broke like all the time. Like, what's going on? With what we're making, we really shouldn't be broke. So kind of what that keyed us in to look into more of like personal finance, stuff like that. I never really got into the whole Dave Ramsey thing. Cause that's one thing I learned from my parents is they had some issues with debt. So they definitely helped me out. I'm like, hey, stay away from that. So thankfully, I never really got too crazy on the debt side of things, but I found this group. It was called, are you familiar with FIRE, the Financial Independence Retire Early Community? Yeah, so I got keyed into that, and it's funny because like I have no desire to retire at this point in time. I really enjoy what I'm doing, but I picked up on a lot of financial literacy skills from that group, like tax gain, capital tax gain loss gain harvesting, stuff like that. That's where I got keyed into some of the directed IRA stuff, where I got keyed into like Matt Sorensen, Mark Kohler, stuff like that was research that kind of stemmed from that group. So super grateful for that. But then I was always like, okay, what's next? I mean, at the corporate level, do you climb the corporate ladder or do you start owning your business? And the more I was looking at it, climbing that corporate ladder, I thought that's what I wanted there for a small period of time. But then I started realizing some of the guys that are at the top and like talking to them, and they absolutely hated their life. They were traveling all the time. They had families that didn't know them, didn't like them, didn't want to be around them. And I'm like, man, this is like no way to live at all. And I don't know. I had this fire that was like, hey, I want to start my own thing. Like this would be fun. And then it was by the time we had our second kid, we were living in Kansas City at the time, and we're starting to realize like, man, we've got no support structure out here whatsoever. We need to get closer to family. So it started getting into real estate at that time too. And that's when I started picking up the rentals. And I went through a few because I was working full time. I went through a few different property managers, and I was having issues to where they were just not taking care of the place. It wasn't really earning the revenue I was thinking it should be earning. Some of them were just flat out lying on certain things. I'm like, man, what's going on? They're like, okay, well, I want to open up my own business. Why not? I guess this would be a good start. I mean, I had started managing my sisters and then started kind of taking over the management for my own. And then that was kind of our out to get closer to family and kind of start our own business. And yeah, that's what led us to property management. Oddly enough, it was like out of necessity.
Wow. I was going to ask how you got into it. You
Yeah.
went right straight to it. That's cool. I love it. He's talking about the job having limits. You know, somebody told me probably last year what job means. Job stands for just over broke.
Yes.
No matter how much you're making, it's still just over broke because you're comfortable with what you're doing and you start living to what you're making and sometimes above those means and you shouldn't.
Yeah,
Um,
you get super complacent. I think that's the thing. So you get complacent and then you allow that lifestyle creep. You really what I've started to realize is I mean, the reason why we were in that position where we were making decent money and still broke is because we allowed that lifestyle creep to whatever we were making, we were just spending what we were making. And it wasn't until we really honed in on it and got into some of those, like researching some of that financial literacy stuff, which I didn't grow up with any of that. It's like figuring that out and actually having a budget and learning what you can do as far as investments. I mean, that was huge.
Lifestyle creep. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that you went to mechanical out of necessity. I could have graduated high school a year early, but I thought about it. I was like, okay, so I only need one credit. I think it was, or yeah, I think it was just one credit to graduate. I was like, I'm going to graduate early. I'm going to go to work and then I might have days off, but my friends are going to be at school. I'm not going to be able to do anything with them. And what kind of job can I really get at this age? So I took a class in auto mechanics so I could learn how to fix my car, change my oil, and also in electronics because I'm a tech guy. I love electronics and I can use it for my house and speakers and all this. So that's, I like it. It's cool.
That's awesome. So was it like a vocational program that you were doing in high school then?
Yeah, they had the tech classes.
That's
So
awesome.
we had to go to a different school to do it because that just based on the school that had it in our district. Only one school had it, so about 20 minutes from our school. I would drive out there and I had the first half of the day there.
Yeah, that was a similar. We had they called it a vocational program to where yeah, they called it AVP, area vocational program or what have you. But we were there halfway through the day and then the other half was at the high school. But I mean our high school, it was shoot an hour and a half from the nearest large town. So we were going all the way from I went to high school in Cripple Creek, which is it's a small mining town if you look it up. But uh, we went the vocational program that I was in. It was down in Colorado Springs, so it was at this Pikes. It's called Pikes Peak Community College. So you would get actually. I think yours was probably structured similar to this, to where you get some like community college credits to a certain extent. So by the time you graduate high school, I think that from what I've seen, that seems pretty common on other high schools as well. But I was like, oh, this is cool. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
I thought I was going to be a mechanic the rest of my life. It's like, oh, I'm going to own my own shop. I'm going to do this, that, and the other.
yep. I thought so. I thought so too. I always thought I would make a automotive place called Honest Abe Automotive.
There you go. I like it. You said
But
Honest Abe.
Abe, like Abraham Lincoln, Honest
Yep.
Abe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it. That's
Even though I'm
awesome.
not Abraham.
Yeah.
My brother's name though, but I
That's
could say it
awesome.
was his.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. No, I'm curious from the auto because you went into automotive for a little bit and then more of the computer stuff. Like what kind of what's your journey from there? Like what caused you to uh what was your path from that point?
I was going to go to the military, but my girlfriend, now my wife, didn't want me to go. Said she was going to break up with me if I did. My mom didn't want me to go. So I actually landed a decent paying job at, for sales at Circuit City, kind of aging myself. And I was doing really well there. I mean, at 17, I was making like $25 an hour based off of commission. And I was like, well, I guess I don't need to go to the military to pay for this and I can stay with a good job there. And like stayed in sales for a while, but that's where I ended up for. But the story for another time.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. We'll
um,
we'll get more well acquainted when we get out in Monterey for sure.
no, on your podcast,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
it's my way to encourage you to have your there and learn more about the guests. That's one thing I created the podcast for too. was, yeah, Pace has mentioned it, but this was a way for me to be able to speak with owners, members on a more one-to-one without having so much interruptions. Being in events, you're going to be talking, but then other people are going to come. And it's good that they come because you want to meet more people. And this way you can learn more about each other and have a better relationship and see how well you can vibe than
Yeah,
trying to be quick about it at an event.
for sure. Yeah, definitely a better setting. That's for sure.
Less interruptions. You're in Colorado now? You still there?
So we actually we hopped around a bunch, and that was honestly one of the parts of trying to get out of that realm, because when I was realizing that, hey, to climb the corporate ladder, is you had to really, I mean, you had to relocate constantly. I mean, we were relocating every 2 years, and it was going into, because they really want you to understand like all facets of the company, as much of it as possible. So I was going to different departments constantly, and that's when I ended up in Kansas City. I was more on the sales pillar of the group at that point in time, where I had started initially in their like quality engineering type stuff. But yeah, long story short, I mean, we are now in Nashville, Tennessee, actually. So I went from Colorado, Michigan, California, Kansas City, Missouri, Nashville. Oh, Texas. Yeah, I was in Texas for a period of time as well.
What's your favorite spot so far?
So far, I'm sorry to say it's not Texas. I know you're from Texas.
No, I mean, is that why you picked Nashville?
I think honestly, because the in Texas we were working so crazy and we never really got to enjoy our outside of work life. I think it has kind
Mm,
of a negative connotation to it, but we really enjoyed Kansas City. We lived in Overland Park. It was a southern suburb of it, and it was like the people were really nice. We had a good friend group out there. The job was phenomenal at the time. Like it was, yeah, we really enjoyed Kansas City. I think the only issue there was no family, and we're like super family oriented. But since we've moved out to Tennessee, I'd say it's definitely in kind of in line with Kansas City for sure.
nice. So your family is in Tennessee now? Or
Hmm.
are you still okay?
Yeah, yeah. So all six of my sisters actually landed out here, believe it or not, and we've got all the nieces and nephews, of the cousins for my kids, same age, similar age. So it worked out really well. My wife's family is they're still out in Southern California, so near LA. So it's I don't, are you familiar with Long Beach?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, so it's right next to Long Beach. It's this little town called, well, not little necessarily, but it's a town called San Pedro. So that's where she was born and raised, and so we go out there and visit there from time to time. But it was kind of a toss up. It was like, hey, do we move back closer to her family or move out to Tennessee? And Tennessee kind of won because California is crazy expensive, and we would have had to live in someone's basement.
Right.
Yeah, or they don't really have basements out there, but yeah.
They'll make one probably.
Yeah, it would have been a family compound. It would have been interesting. I remember getting, because I was looking at job offers out there, and they have a region office in Irvine, just south of there. And the thing is, the cost of living is so substantially higher out there, and the salary that they were giving me was like barely comparable to what I was making in Texas at the time. And I'm like, man, we're gonna be broke if we if we move out there. This doesn't make any sense. So yeah, but no, it's been a good move. We really like it out here. It's been nice.
I'm happy for you, man. That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, how's your property management company going right now?
So it's been good. So it's still, I would consider it still relatively small in size, because we're at about 21 doors right now. We've got 7 units that are getting ready to onboard. It's a development project that I've been working with the owners. They're a commercial. It's a commercial space that they're repurposing to short-term rentals in downtown Franklin. So that's getting added on, and yeah, no, it's been going really good. We're trying to get to 60 units by the end of this year, under management. And again, the operations manager, like having him on's been huge. It's been such a relief. But that's been a good change. But it's still busy. But it's been getting better. Starting to hone in my processes, and yeah, nothing's perfect, but it's definitely getting better for sure.
Hey, you're doing it right. Progress over perfection, right?
Yeah, I think the one thing I really like about that business model is it's a really good reoccurring revenue model for sure. So it's good. It's good from that standpoint. When you, especially with the mix we have now, So short-term rentals, they're more seasonal. Monthly rentals are slightly less predictable, but then you accompany in the long-term rentals, you get some of that stability. So it's been a really good mix for us for sure.
Your property management, is it limited to a certain area?
Yeah, currently we're just focusing on the counties south of Davidson is where Nashville's at, and then the bordering counties it's Williamson and Rutherford. That's where Murfreesboro and Franklin are. Franklin's actually our primary market. So, but yeah, that's our main focus. Expanding. I know a lot of people say that you can do short term rentals remotely. I'm maybe it's a limited mindset for me, but I would go crazy if I had to do that. Maybe I'm just not quite there, but there's a lot from each area to each area. It's just like the laws are different. You have to deal with different
Oh, yeah.
municipalities as far as the tax reporting. Like for instance, here locally, we have to report taxes, like our occupancy taxes and sales tax monthly to the state and the county and the city, and their individual tax filings for each property. And they're unfortunately inefficient to where everything's paper. Like we have to mail it in. We can't do anything online. The sales tax, thankfully, that's
Why?
online because it's with the state. But each of the
Right.
counties and cities, I mean, it's brutal. It's heavy from the admin side, big time. But that's the nice part about the operations manager. He's now starting to get integrated in that. But yeah, doing that in other states, I don't know if I necessarily want to go through that quite yet until
Once
I
you get
really
to,
get things honed in here for sure.
yeah, once you get better home, then it'll probably be easier and you'll be ready to expand.
Yeah.
What county was that again?
So Williamson and Rutherford are
Williamson.
the main ones, and then Murray County just south of that. So you've got the main cities there. They're Franklin, Murfreesboro, and then Columbia. But yeah, Franklin's the one where we're doing a lot of the short term rentals. Murfreesboro has been great from a monthly rental perspective. And then Columbia, I don't do a huge amount in Columbia. We've only got 2 houses down there that we manage. It's not. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a profitable market, at least at this point in time, at the current price point. So
Okay. So anybody that's listening to this, if you have properties in that area, reach out to Josh Smith to get some property management done and have them take care of all that hassle of paperwork and snail mail.
yeah,
And he's already experienced. He's doing it and help yourself expand your business even more. Where can they
yeah.
find you to do property management?
So property management, it's actually for that one, it's going to be franklinhost.com. So the company, it's Grand Welcome of Franklin. So it's actually a franchise model, which is interesting. Looking back at it now, I'm not sure I would necessarily go that route, but it's been good for the most part. And but yeah, so it's Grand Welcome of Franklin, but our domain is franklinhost.com for that.
FranklinHost.com. I'll put the link below as well for
Yeah.
people looking for it to help you out with that.
No, I appreciate that, man.
No, thank you. Right now, we have a property. I'm with Adam Colburn. We're in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
We have a sober living property out there. So if anybody knows properties in that area, it's kind of rural. We need more to help out Oxford House to provide more housing for sober living members that are recovering. Right now, Adam's having issues trying to find more deals that pencil out. So if you do have those deals, send them my way so we can help out some more people with that.
Yeah. It's awesome, man. Yeah, Oxford House, it definitely has to be more of an active market for sure
Yeah.
for them to go in.
Yeah, they say they need it. I think this is the first house they have, and they keep on calling at them, hey, when you going to get these other ones? So we're looking to, the lot that we have is an acre. We're looking to try to add some ADUs, but we need Adam hasn't had the time to go out and figure out if we can do ADUs with the way the loan is. And so we just have to make the steps. So if you know about properties and like splitting up lots and this and that, reach out. We can use your help to see how we can best use that property to add more units if we have to plot it out and then change our loan. Things like that would be very helpful.
So I actually know so he's one of the regional leaders out here in Nashville, but he's into development. I mean, granted it's Davidson County, but there might be some similarities since it's Tennessee. I don't know. I don't know a huge amount about the development space, but he could potentially. His name's Daniel Nguyen. And then there's Heather Chapman. I want to say
Okay.
that's her last name. I'll have to look that up, make sure I'm getting that right. But she's in development out here as well. but they're definitely good resources for sure.
Okay. I'll ask you for that number afterwards.
Yeah, for sure.
So Pace Morby pushes us with our Mount Everest. What is your Mount Everest?
So oddly enough, so my active income is in property management and lending. That's where my main focus is. But my Mount Everest is quite a bit different from that. So it's really focused. It's honed in on. It's still real estate, but it's honed in on like providing a path to home ownership for those who otherwise couldn't qualify. So I'm looking to focus. I'm looking to house at least 500 families in the next 5 years, and we're looking to do that with so through creative financing. So if they're not able to qualify, we want to be able to get them in on some type of either lease option or wrap. So it's going to be primary homestead buyers for sure, helping those families out.
Such a good cause, such a good reason. I've just recently had Conrado. He was on the podcast. He does a lot of lease options.
Yeah.
And I just actually had a podcast yesterday with Carlos Torres Garzon, him and his partner Matt Starr. They're doing a lot of that as well.
They're killing it.
Got to combine people that are doing that so you can scale it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it by yourself.
Yeah, Matt's super sharp. He's doing really good at it for sure. I've kind of dipped my toes into it. Like Pace says, mess around and find out. So my last subject to property that I purchased with a retirement account, actually, but it was with the intent to do this model with it. So I'm looking to lease option that one out. But my operations manager actually moved here from Colorado. So he needed a home, so he's staying there temporarily. So haven't gotten to the point to where I can test it out quite yet because I haven't done lease options before. So that's going to be new territory for me. But yeah, I heard Conrado's pretty good. So definitely be a good resource to check out.
Yep. I can connect you if you need to. He's also in the community, so I'm pretty sure he'll be happy to help. But yeah, he spoke really well about lease options because it's like a triple net lease where you still have the possibility of owning it, but the homeowner takes care of everything unless they mess up and you have to take the house back over.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about that model is they have the full intention of owning it. So they're treating it like it's their home and they're responsible for the maintenance. So that definitely helps out from that perspective, like helping out with your expenses as the landlord at that point.
Yeah. Earlier we were talking about your lending. So you do EMD, which is earnest money deposit mainly for wholesalers, right? Or is there other EMD opportunities that you look into?
So primarily for wholesalers, but every now and then again, we do have them for end buyers. That one's a little more difficult because that's where we're the most heavily exposed. So if they're an end buyer, the part of the security with a traditional EMD transaction is like, for those who aren't familiar with it, is you've got a wholesaler, they get a house under contract, and then they have say a 15, 14-day inspection period or option period. And well, those are actually different within the state of Texas, but yeah, anyways, inspection period is the main one. Within that inspection period, they find who's going to be the next buyer for that. So then once they find the next buyer, they assign that contract. At that point in time, that end buyer puts in EMD. So in a traditional EMD loan transaction, that's part of our security is they are putting their funds in and they're non-refundable. So we know our funds are kind of secured at that point, along with our contracts. So that's great. But when you put an end buyer in the mix, you're not going to have those funds coming in. So we don't have that security. So it's definitely much more exposed. So we do require, they have to have at least 3 HUDs, recent HUDs. One, we want to make sure that they're experienced. And then 2, we have to make sure that the earnest money is refundable through the end of until close of escrow. So that's kind of a sticking point for some of the end buyers. But the ones we have funded with, it hasn't really been an issue. It's really, are you confident that you're going to close the deal? If they're confident that they're going to close the deal, then it's usually not an issue. But we have like the verbiage and everything, the contract language that they can put in there. Or if it's already under contract, we've got an amendment we can send their way and help them out with that. So I feel like that was a long way to answer your question, but yes. Yeah. EMD,
no, it makes sense. The EMDs are one of the hardest things to stay consistent with because so many of them fall through, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the problem. And they're definitely the highest risk. They're the highest risk. And when you're talking about what I was mentioning, so escrow-backed funds. So all we're dealing with is escrow-backed funds. Out of all the options that I'm aware of, at least right now, there very well may be more, but the ones that I'm aware of and deploying, EMD is by far the most risky. So, and that's kind of the reason why it's charged so high, like the return on it.
Yeah. So for new wholesalers that are watching this, when you get a contract, you have about 30 days, right, to close on that contract when you have the seller sign off on it. So then you have your EMD, which is about 10 days inspection period. So when we land, Josh included, we land in those 10 days. If we don't have a buyer by those 10 days, then we're going to cancel that contract so we can make sure we get our money back. That's what he means by at risk. If it passes that 10 days, the chances of us getting that money back is 0 if that property doesn't close. That's why a buyer needs to be in place within those 10 days. And when you request an EMD, you got to make sure you have time left in your inspection period, because if you only have a day or two left, you're very unlikely to get funding from us.
Yeah, exactly. Very good points. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the thing that I think people think, like, well, we've got all this time until we close the property. Like, yes, but we've got zero security. I mean, you've got to realize, again, this is escrow-backed, not asset-backed. So we've got no security in the deal.
Yep.
So.
And escrow is the money that goes to title, and title holds it. So once that time leaves, title has instructions. The escrow company has instructions of what to do with that money. So once the inspection period, that money basically goes to the seller.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then you do double closing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And double closing is when somebody's purchasing one property and they need to, I guess you want to explain it better?
No, you're fine.
You do it more than I do.
I think you would explain it plenty fine. So double close it's kind of the same. I put it as pretty much the same realm as if you were to assign the contract but in this case, instead of assigning it, you're buying the property temporarily and then selling it. So what you're going to have is within that same inspection period. So say you get one under contract, within that same inspection period, you're going to find the end buyer, but you're going to execute a separate purchase and sale agreement. So at that time, you're going to have 2 purchase and sale agreements on the same home running parallel. We come in and fund that first transaction. So you've got A to B, which is the seller to the wholesaler, you, or if you're the buyer in this case. And you have B to C, which is the wholesaler, you, to the end buyer. So those 2 contracts are going in parallel, and they're going to close ideally on the same day and with the same title company. It's where you're going to own that asset, where we would fund that first initial full purchase, everything. And you're going on title of that asset. So you're purchasing that home, and then it's immediately being resold for a higher price on that secondary contract. And a lot of people say, okay, why not just assign it? Well, at this point, I mean, a lot of the times where there's three cases for this. Primary use case would be, one, your assignment fee is maybe pretty high. I mean, say it's over 20%, or not 20%, over 20K. If you go and you're going to the closing table and that buyer sees that you're making a $20,000 commission, or say a $50,000 commission, they're probably going to be a little upset. Maybe they came to you originally like, oh yeah, these numbers make sense. It works for me, which is good. But then they see that fee and like, wait a minute, I could have got it for this price. And then they back off. And then they snake the deal from you by going around you. So that's one thing. If you've got a higher assignment fee. 2, it kind of legitimizes your entity. So your purchasing entity. So, cause you're actually purchasing the asset. So it's going to show you on title on multiple deals. So it really brings up your legitimacy from that standpoint. So that's super helpful. And then from like states where, say, wholesaling, there's a lot of regulations that are coming up with wholesaling. That's just the end of the day. You're going to have to change the way in which you operate. And a lot of the cases, double closes fix that. Because you're actually purchasing the asset. So really they classify wholesalers as, at least in the state of Tennessee, like it's recently changed on that. Now we lend on these nationwide. So, but there's a lot of states that are kind of bringing on these regulations where they're seeing wholesaling as you're brokering the deal. So a lot of cases, to outlaw it, they're saying that you have to have like a brokerage license or a real estate license. So this is one way to kind of get around that temporarily. I think they're going to catch on to that in many states where they want to get rid of double closes as well. But at the end of the day, I think wholesale is going to be around in some way, shape, or form. It's just going to be navigated a little differently. So that's part of the reason why we're pivoting quite a bit on the seller carry. So the stack Morby Method type deals, because those are end buyers. They're purchasing the asset. So that's one where we can definitely solve a problem there. But double close is still really viable solution at this point in time. You just never know when that's going to change.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. For new wholesalers, do you happen to have like a purchase contract that you like to use that you recommend for them to use?
So in the case of, are you stating in the case of like EMD or double close, or which method?
Just in general, I know Pace likes to push one out, so I like to give out the one that he uses for Gators. So I'll give that purchase sale agreement to share it to wholesalers because that'll actually have the EMD memorandum to help protect your EMD, and then most likely it has more information about double closing A to B assignment.
Yeah. So we have a specific contract that we're not necessarily like the purchase and sale agreement doesn't matter as much to us. The main thing for us is just ensuring that kind of making sure that title is party to the transaction. And then we've got like a irrevocable direction, like letter of direction for the funds. Like that's a primary item that we need. And then within their purchase and sale agreement, again, we've got that verbiage that they can put in as far as the provisions, like making sure that it's refundable up until the end of inspection, or like really a lot of the cases that is in the instance of say up to close of escrow. So for an end buyer, so we've got that amendment that we can provide in those situations for sure. And double close, I mean, really that one, our main thing is, hey, you need to make sure you're operating with a title company that's familiar with these transactions. And then they also need to, again, sign that irrevocable letter of direction of funds. Well, we just want to make sure that our funds are secure. And unfortunately, title companies can be a little fickle and they're very risk averse. So, I mean, it's a form of mutual release type deal. It's just kind of a step above that because we make the title companies party to the transaction. They also have to notarize it, have it notarized. So there's a lot more, I know, legal standing or legal ground to when you set it up like that. That way, if they want to be that way, we can we can quickly kind of work through that.
Great point. When we're talking about title companies, you got to remember the watcher here. You got to remember that it's a person at the other end. I'm pretty sure you've gone to multiple title companies and say, "Oh, you had a great experience with it on the first transaction, second transaction, the third transaction was different because it was a different agent." And they see things differently, they read things differently, they interpret things differently. So it's important to have that documentation and be forthcoming with them to know what is expected at the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the double close, so the double close is the similar contracts for the seller carryback stack, Morby Method type deals. The main difference with that one is we need to be in very close communication with the lender because not all lenders allow that type of structure. As actually, the vast majority don't allow that type of structure. So we just need to make sure that we're being fully transparent. Again, I only operate when it's above board. I don't want to be caught in some type of mortgage fraud type situation. So we want to make sure that we're doing that appropriately and all parties to the transaction are aware of what's going on. So yeah, that's the crucial point for the stack and Morby Method is we need to get to know or be introduced to that lender who you're using for the institutional loan side of that transaction, and then just making sure that we understand what their sourcing requirements are, seasoning requirements, things of that nature.
Yeah, it's very important. And I like that you're very transparent with the lenders so they know and you're not going to have any mortgage fraud.
Yeah.
And it's funny how a lot of experienced investors are scared of being that transparent with the lender. But because you've had that experience and you've done it, you can make the investor feel at ease that you can make it work by talking to the right lenders.
Yeah. And it definitely, I mean, I'm not going to lie, it definitely does limit your options because at the end of the day, I'd say a good 80-90% of lenders, you tell them about this structure and they're like, nope, I don't want that. I don't want a secondary lien on the property. I don't want, like, these funds need to be seasoned for 2 months plus. I mean, the average is typically 2 months, which isn't going to work for us. And then also they're like, oh, it has to come directly from the buyer and we're not okay with you funding it in any way, shape, or form. It's like, okay, that's completely fine. But yeah, I'd say a vast majority of lenders, that's the situation that they're in. They don't want any part in it. So but there's definitely lenders out there where you can find them and they're willing to work with these types of transactions. And I think it's much better to go that route. That way, like you said, down the line, you don't have to run into any issues And like, is it really worth going to jail over a few $1,000s? I mean, come on.
No.
Yeah,
No.
we're not talking jail. We're talking prison time at this one. So,
Right.
yeah.
That's a federal offense.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but a lot of it has to do with education of the lenders. Well, it's like agents. We talked to a lot of agents, and a lot of them don't know about creative finance and think that it's illegal when it's not. They just haven't been educated and trained. Same thing with a lot of lenders. They do their job and they have their tunnel focus. They only know about that one thing that they focus on. And anything outside the box makes it seem fishy because they don't understand it. They get scared of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, lot of education. So yeah, you have to be okay. It's like anything in real estate. You got to be okay, especially in the creative space. You've got to be okay with explaining the same thing over and over and over and then reiterate and make sure you're explaining it best. Because if they're not understanding it, then you're not explaining it well enough. So that's what I try to keep up in my game as much as I possibly can on trying to explain it as best as possible. So I'm not confusing people, because it's like anything in sales or business that you confuse, you lose. So
Confuse, you lose.
yeah,
Facts, man.
yeah, facts.
And even if you speak to somebody, one thing I learned when I was a supervisor out in the field, I had 70 directs, is when you tell somebody, even though they say, they nod their head and say, yeah, I understand, ask them to repeat what they tell you. It's not just in lending and real estate. Everything that you do when you're assigning somebody a task, even if it's your kids, ask them what you said to make sure that they understood. Because they may have heard a portion of their sentence and not listened to the rest of it, and then come back with, "Oh, that's what you told me." It's like, "Did you hear the rest of it?"
No, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Some people, I don't know what it is. It's like they have a hard time being wrong or looking stupid. And it's like, you got to be okay looking stupid. I mean, it's everybody on their first go around. You're going to look stupid at what you're doing. You just got to be okay with it. Yeah, it's always important to ask questions. I think that's another thing, being an entrepreneur. And I think you know this really well, because I mean, I've seen you implement it well, is you're just curious. Like, you're super curious and you're always looking for, what's the way I can improve upon this? What's another route we can do this if we can't get it done this way? I mean, we're always trying to think of, how can this, it's not, oh, this can't be done. It's like, how can we get this done type deal. So it's kind of a never give up, I'm going to die on this, this point type deal.
Exactly. That's a great mindset to do it. Not saying, "Oh, I can't do this." It's like, what do I need to do to get it done, or who can help me get it done?
Yeah.
All about the mindset shift.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
just in case we need to clarify, a double close, basically what it is when the wholesaler goes, they take it to escrow, we close the transaction, you provide funding for that double close, the money pays the seller, but that money stays in escrow, and then the wholesaler's end buyer, which is party C, their money goes into escrow. So your money is protected that you lent out, because all that money stays in escrow, and then the seller gets paid, the wholesaler gets paid, and the end buyer gets the property, and you get your money back.
Yeah, in our transactions, one of the things we make sure is, for that extra protection, is we want to make sure that the end buyer, so that B2C transaction, they need to fund first. So as long as their funds hit there first, then we're good to go. And then we wire immediately after that. As long as our contracts are signed, their funds are hit the escrow account first, then we're good to go.
And then to clarify, if the funds are already there in escrow, why don't they just use their money to pay the seller? Is because it's not legally allowable to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. Oh, my dogs are barking now. um, Going back to the stack method slash Morby method, can you expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, for
Like what
sure.
type of transaction?
Yeah, so that transaction, it's one of the creative transactions where you're actually going out and getting, you're like a traditional, and what we call an institutional lender. So if, say, you want to get a commercial loan or a conventional loan, or like a some type of investor loan, like a DSCR, so debt service coverage ratio loan, where it's based on the profit of the property. So you're going to get some type of institutional loan. Really, it's going to be, more often than not, if it's a single family home, it's going to be a DSCR. Multifamily, it's going to be some type of commercial loan, which we're trying to work through one right now, actually. But the where this structure makes sense is if the seller owns the property completely outright, or two, they have, I like some people vary on this, but for me, it makes the most sense numbers wise if they have at least 50% equity in the property. So, because the way this transaction works is usually in the creative finance space, you're really going after, okay, ideally, if you can take it over on subject to or seller finance, it's usually more than often going to be the best route. You're going to have the lowest entry fee or entry cost, like getting into the deal. So your money to actually take that deal down, and you're more than likely going to have better returns in that case. So ideally, that's the first case. But every so often, you're going to run into a situation to where maybe the sellers they want a high down payment, and investors in the investor world, obviously you make a lot of your money on the purchase of the asset, like on the entry. That's where you make a lot of your money. So you need to make sure that's structured properly. So it's like, hey, if I'm going to put 20% down, I'll just get a regular loan. I mean, I don't need to do any creative structure or anything like that. So in this, what works out with this is if they're not budging on that, and they legitimately do need a larger down payment. It's not, if they don't trust you, it just means you're not negotiating it efficiently. So that kind of goes back to maybe you're not explaining it right. But maybe there's a case where they actually legitimately do need it, to where say they've got a medical bill, or they're trying to roll it over to another property type deal. So where this works in is you've got that institutional loan. So say, for numbers sake, we're just going to deal with $100,000 property, which I know that's not really common these days in this day and age. But say the seller is like, hey, I need 20% down on that, but you're not willing to budge on that. And it's like, hey, I'll do you one better. I'll give you a 50% down payment. Like, okay, that'll work as long as you agree to these type of terms, to where you can seller finance at least a portion of that. Usually they're much more agreeable to that. So say you come in and you get a DSCR loan, say 75% loan to value. So out of that 100K, you've got 75,000. Then you ask the seller, or you negotiate with the seller to seller finance that other portion. So the 25%. So with that, what we're doing is you bring in a transactional funder. So from us, we fund that down payment. And then on the back end, that seller finance that's coming back to you, that is creating a secondary lien on the property, and then it's paying us off. So you're actually getting into the property with no money out of pocket. You can structure it different ways to where you almost over leverage it, to where you're getting an acquisition fee. You can also structure it to where when you purchase it and take it down, instead of like, if that secondary lien's an issue, you can go in there and have like a partnership LLC that purchases it. And you have like the payout, like the owner distributions or owner payout structure. And that's how you pay off that seller type deal. So really, it's the stack and Morby method is just a way of doing seller finance and getting into a property with no money out of pocket is the primary.
I love the way you put that together. When you do like Morby methods, do you provide a servicing company, or do you have any servicing companies that you recommend for that?
So typically not from the servicing side of things. So I haven't really come across that. Usually it's the end buyer that they're pretty well experienced. And look, like I'd say it's definitely more of an advanced strategy. I mean, obviously we're going to educate you to the best of our ability, but if you're not as familiar with it, we've got TCs that we definitely recommend, because TCs, having a TC for this transaction the first go around is huge. Like it'd be a huge benefit for you. Big time. They'll make sure the paperwork's structured properly, and they may have, like, I know one, they do have connections with a servicing company, but at this point in time, I actually haven't run across one to where we've like said, hey, go with this one. So
Okay, I'm just curious. I know it's a little bit outside of your realm, but I didn't know if you had somebody that you would recommend. My experience with one that's a good target to go for, like a Morby method, stack method loan, is there's a fix and flipper that has a property that's not selling because of some reason. One situation we had was on a very busy road, and the fix and flipper needed all the money to pay off their HML, their hard money lender. So the way we structured it was we were going to pay them about 70%, I think it was about 65%, which would have covered their HML, and the seller would have gotten some money. And then we were going to seller finance the remaining of that. So we were bringing in Josh's company to finance that 25%, not finance, but transactional lend at 25% at closing. So the DSCR loan would pay out the seller their amount. Then we would have about 5% left in the escrow that would come to the buyer. So actually getting paid to close on that deal, and then seller finance that other 25%. you got to account for your fees that you're going to pay for the transactional lending. But that's one way. If you're looking at how you can use the Morby method, is find a property that's been fixed and flipped, that's been on the market for a bit, find out what they owe, and you can probably structure a Morby method, stack method that way.
Yeah, definitely. I think like that's a great point, and that's a good example because I mean that hard money loan, I mean it just keeps tacking on fees, so it's not ideal. So those fix and flippers, they're in kind of a rough situation, and this is a good viable solution where you could really provide some value to them for sure. And like you mentioned, I like the fact that you mentioned the acquisition fee. Unfortunately, that deal didn't quite work out like that because of some issues with the primary lender, the institutional lenders. But you've got like I've got one right now where it's a multifamily, it's a 24 unit based out of Louisiana, and we're structuring it to where they could get almost a $200,000 acquisition fee. So it's a $2.5 million purchase price, and the seller's willing to finance like over 70% of that. And the way we can structure it is to where these properties, they need a value add. And again, you've got levers you need to pull with the seller. Where like this is all part of the negotiation with the seller, where you've got your purchase price, your interest rate, the loan terms, and what is your monthly payment going to be. When you're negotiating with a seller, you've just got to choose which lever are you going to pull on. And if they want a higher purchase price, like, hey, we're going to have to negotiate this one down a little further. So that's kind of, in this situation, it has some value add that needs to happen to kind of bring it up to par. So they're actually going higher on the purchase price as long as they carry back a portion to where instead of going out and getting a separate fix and flip loan or a gap loan, it's all under one loan. So that way you're getting an acquisition fee to pay for that value add. So the way you can structure these so many different ways, really your imagination is the limit on these, which is what I like about it. It's awesome. Obviously you want to do it right. Make sure you're securing the seller. You don't want to put the seller in a bad situation by any means, but if you're doing it right, it's a very awesome structure.
Yep, sure is. Just make sure when you're talking to the seller, be open before coming. They might say no the first time, but it's consistent. You got to be consistent. Bring it up again, mention it to them, and show them that you've already done it. If you haven't done it, Mr. Josh Smith here has, and he can help you show that he's done it and show experience and help out with hopefully getting it closed out. I think hopefully I'm not overstepping what I'm saying. But he can give you advice on it. He's good people. He helped me out very well. On our deal that he talked about failing through is one thing is we didn't get a TC, transactional coordinator. Get that to be able to help follow up. Yes, it's an extra cost, but that cost is actually going to save you time. That time you'll be able to use somewhere else and not lose out on a deal like we did because we didn't have a transactional coordinator.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, they're fun structures. And then that one that did close for y'all, it was more of just the institutional lender that kind of was messing around a little bit, and the loan to value changed a few times because things were extended. It's real estate, everybody. Things go wrong all the time, so you gotta account for that. But yeah, dealing with an institutional lender, because really the main steps in these is one, you've got to find an institutional lender that will accommodate this type of structure, get pre-qualified, then you go to the seller and negotiate terms with them, and then try to get those favorable terms. Then you bring in the transactional funder, and then you're off to the races. So, but yeah, it's a great transaction for sure. It's a really good way to acquire real estate.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot, but if you think about it, you can either come up with a lot of money or you can take these steps to put this together and come up with very little money out of your pocket or even get paid at closing. So it's your choice on what you're doing.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for somebody that wants to get started as an entrepreneur?
My advice, I would say, honestly, just get started. I think when I was going into it, I had the kind of the analysis paralysis type. I like overanalyzed everything. Yeah. Yeah. Initially that was like a major, none of us are immune to that, especially not me. So it actually took me a while. It was a good 2 years of me just researching what to do before I bought my first deal. And it was like, again, it's over analyzing it. You don't need to analyze it that much. Yes, get an idea of what you're doing. I would definitely, if you're getting into real estate, not just entrepreneurship in general, but this kind of applies in other, like figure out what you need to know to make sure that business cash flows. And in real estate, it's underwriting. Really, you need to figure out underwriting first, because that's going to tell you, is this property actually going to cash flow? If you don't know your underwriting, you're going to get hosed very easily when you're first getting into real estate, because you're going to be naive to whether a property actually cash flows. And that's the same thing with business. Figure out what knowledge or skill set do you need to know to understand like what's going to be profitable in that business. Like what knowledge or skill set can you acquire to kind of get past that? So that would be my advice. What's worked for me is like gain that knowledge and then quickly put it into action. Don't be like me. Don't wait and like overanalyze it to death. In the meantime, someone's now 5 years ahead of you 2 years later. So definitely don't overanalyze it. I would just learn the skill set you need to learn to initially get in it and know what you're doing, and then fail forward. Just take action, because you're going to learn way more by doing it and taking action. And that's one thing. It took me, I was a little stubborn to learn that. So yeah, for sure.
Fail forward, take action. And I bet you did 2 years of studying when you went to close and finally did the steps and got your property that you probably only used maybe 10% of what you learned.
Oh yeah. And I like, there was so much stuff that came up that I did not account for. I had no clue what I was doing. So that 2 years, did it really get me much? I mean, it made me feel better, I guess. but those feelings didn't feel all that good when I actually went to go into the transaction and realized, holy cow, I didn't account for that. I didn't account for that. It's like, yeah. So yeah.
You won't find out till you do it. Mess around and find out.
Yeah.
Great reason. If underwriting, basically what it is looking at the property, figuring out what the numbers are, what you need to buy it at, what you can make as cash flow, depending on how you're going to do it. If you're going to wholesale it, what you can sell it for. Is it an area where people are buying? So the biggest tip I have for that is don't just find the how to do it, find the who is doing it so you can learn it a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, that's the who, not how, is super crucial, especially in this business. If you can pay for the knowledge and get it that much quicker, you're going to advance way faster. And that's one thing I've learned in being part of these groups is like, I want to get that knowledge as quick as I possibly can and fail as quick as I possibly can. That way you can get to the next step, the next rung in the ladder, I guess.
Yeah, that's how you do it. You climb up a mountain, you're hiking the Mount Everest. People, how many times they climb up and probably slide down a little bit? They figured out, oh, okay, I can grab here, but not there, and take the next step. So yeah, it's amazing advice, amazing path forward. How can somebody work with you today?
So we've got a couple ways with the lending business. That's the primary focus at the moment. And we've got a really decent referral program. So for anyone in Owners Club, we've got a really decent split on that. It's usually we share any referral that you bring in, it's 50% of the profits. And that is moving on throughout. Like if you bring that referral in, any more deals that they bring in, that's the lifetime of that referral. So we're not going to just do the first one. It's all the business they bring to us. We want to make sure that we take care of our referral partners on that. And then anybody outside of referral, outside of OC Club, or Owners Club, it's still a pretty decent amount. So we do a 60-40 split on that side of things. So if you go to dealswithjosh.com, then you can see kind of what our referral program looks like, what we lend on, what our lending box is, just to get a better idea there. And then from there, it also shows kind of what we're doing from acquisitions. And that's something that constantly updates. And if we're looking to acquire different assets, it'll be included on that side as well.
Fantastic. So you have your lending there, the referrals, and I guess you have your buy box there for properties you're picking up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the buy box for the Mount Everest, I mean, eventually it's going to be coming into more multifamily, but really our buy box at this point in time is we're focusing and really honing in on RV parks. So specifically here in Middle Tennessee. And the reason for that is I don't necessarily want more single family homes for my rental portfolio, because I'd like it to be more condensed. So it's kind of more going towards the multifamily model to a certain extent. But the thing is with RV parks is with my current property management business, I've got a lot of infrastructure in place, and I can infuse a lot of value from the hospitality side of things with the rental, like the vacation rental industry. I can infuse a lot of that stuff as far as like dynamic pricing and how we manage our vendors. I can really infuse that value into that business, and it would kind of have a lot of value add to make that much more profitable. So I think it's just kind of the most logical next step. At least I'm seeing. We'll see how it turns out. We'll see if it is.
Yeah, RV parks are very popular right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Listening to Pace in Montana. Did you go to community camp last year?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was I was there in the summertime. I forget if it was June or July. Were you there at the same time?
I went in September.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was about to say because it's funny when Matei introduced us. I was like, man, how do I not know this guy? I think that's one thing in the first initial year of Owners Club, I didn't make myself as well known as I could have. So I didn't I talked to a fair amount of people at the retreats, but obviously not enough because I didn't know you. So yeah, you or Luber didn't know you guys at the initial. So that's a fun thing. You meet really great people in that group. It's been awesome.
That's one of the things about networking, especially with the group that you've been in the same rooms together, is what I've tried to do when we go to our retreats is I talk less to the people I already know so I can make new connections.
That's smart. I need to do more of that.
Yeah. So I was like, hey man, I know you, I appreciate you, but I'm gonna go meet some new people.
I appreciate you, but I don't want to talk to you.
I do, but I don't. I
Yeah.
need to find the key to our treasure. It's
Yeah.
what Pace says a lot is you never know what person holds the key to your treasure. And Josh held the key to my treasure to be able to close this DSCR loan on a property of Walker Street with Luver. Shout out to Luver and our fourplex / microfamily.
Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
I think that's all I got, man. I appreciate you. We've gone an hour and a half. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This has been great, and we will see you on the next one.
Yeah. Thanks
Be
for having
sure.
me, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Be sure to hit the like button, drop a comment below, see how you can work with Josh, how you can work with me, and any questions you have, we'll be happy to answer. Till the next episode. Catch this next podcast where you can start your dreams and start to own your time the way these other guests have.